Dolphin fans, hope that wherever you are having a wonderful day or evening, that things are good for you and yours. Welcome to the debut, the premiere episode of the new show here on Dolphins Talk, Pick Six with David Bearman, featuring the one and only ESPN's David Bearman. David, how are you?
Good. Thanks for the nice intro. Happy to be here. Happy to be a part of this all year long. I'm looking forward to talking Dolphins football with you.
Absolutely. It's going to be a blast. Been a long time. Dave, for those of you that somehow have missed out on it, David and I go way, way back. We're talking 30 years plus, back to being kids, living on the same street, cutting through people's backyards to get to one another's house, play basketball in the driveway. We're talking been a long time, but we've been diehard Dolphin fans the whole time, and we finally have found a way to connect on a regular show here on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you like this video and share it with all of your friends, because listen, it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround time on most of these episodes from the time that they are recorded until the time the games kick off and the weekend's action gets underway. So let's talk about weekend's action and what this show is basically all about. We're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins, but we're going to be talking about it through the bettor's lens, right? And not necessarily just doing the same typical X's and O's that a lot of other podcasts discuss. We're going to be breaking things down as it pertains to the bettor's perspective. So we'll be talking about player props. We'll be talking about over-unders. We'll be talking about those types of things. So if you're not a gambler, you know what? That's okay. Maybe this isn't the show for you. But if you are, maybe this is the show for you, particularly if you are a Miami Dolphins fan. And of course, I have to throw in a disclaimer here right off the top. This is for entertainment purposes only. Do not come for us if we make a suggestion and it turns out that maybe it wasn't the best suggestion, but it will be the best suggestion. But this is for entertainment purposes only.
Hey, I did a radio show this morning on a Baltimore Ravens affiliate out there. And after talking about Baltimore versus Vegas, they asked me about other games I liked. And I led with saying I liked Houston over Jacksonville because Jacksonville shouldn't be laying points on the road. And there was like silence for a minute because I couldn't imagine the fact that I was giving Houston out as a pick. So again, entertainment purposes only. Let's talk about some good football though.
Absolutely. And we will be, as we get into the regular season, we will be we're going to be talking about Dolphins, but we will also be talking about 6 games every weekend that are going to be the best bet for you, or from David Bearman's perspective. So we'll be talking about that here on the show each week as we go through. And that's why it's called Pick Six. It's not just a clever name. We're actually picking 6 games. For this first episode, we're going to be really talking more of a preview. It's more of a season preview. It is season preview time. If you follow any kind of sports website, if it's a betting website, if it's a team blog, if it's anything like that, you have probably had it up to your eyeballs with season preview stuff. That's what's going on, and that's what we're doing here. We're doing a season preview of the Miami Dolphins from the bettor's perspective. But we're going to start off with a little bit of news, which we will do from time to time because news is constantly breaking. And it's not directly Miami Dolphins related, but it's something that when I saw it pop up, I was immediately intrigued and I was immediately interested, because one of the things that the Dolphins were criticized for this season was not really going after a free agent running back, a bigger name free agent running back, right? They brought in Malcolm Brown, but it was a kind of an underwhelming signing from a lot of people's perspectives. And, the Dolphins did not bring in a Le'Veon Bell, who is now on the Ravens practice squad. They did not bring in a Todd Gurley, who was still out there in the ether. They did not bring a lot of these guys in. Instead, they kind of went with Malcolm Brown and said, we're going to just deal with what we've got here in-house. Well, today, the New Orleans Saints, as we recorded this on Tuesday evening, the New Orleans Saints released Latavius Murray. Now, Latavius Murray had his best career year last season as Alvin Kamara's backup. And really, at times they were not exactly 50-50, but he was carrying quite a bit of the load, especially when Kamara was banged up. And today, I guess the Saints had tried to get him to restructure his deal and take a little bit less money, something along the lines of what the Dolphins did with Jakeem Grant, where they basically said, Jakeem, we're either going to release you or you can restructure your contract and stay in. Jakeem took the deal, stayed in. Saints went to Latavius Murray. Murray said no dice. Saints let him go. He's released. He's going to be clearing waivers. Well, he may or may not be clearing waivers, and then he's going to be out there. And this was a guy that I immediately thought the Dolphins really need to kick the tires on this guy, because he is exactly the kind of running back that they would be looking for. He's a guy that can carry the load. He can be, a significant contributor to the team, and he's not going to probably cost the same amount, I would think, as a guy like Todd Gurley or a Le'Veon Bell, who's no longer available. So, Dave, just really genuinely curious what you think of the idea of maybe the Dolphins kicking the tires on Latavius Murray.
See, we're all Monday morning quarterbacks. We're all fans. We're all going to break down and digest everything the Dolphins do and don't do. And obviously, Greer and company not bringing in a big running back, not drafting a running back. We all had Javonte Williams high on our board, Najee Harris high on our board. Listen, we're not the GM and the coaches. The Dolphins obviously are comfortable with who they have to draft the way they went and to do free agency the way they went. So, maybe they like Myles Gaskin more than we do. Maybe they like Malcolm Brown and Ahmed more than we do. We're not there. We're not the coaches. But I do agree with you that Latavius Murray is somebody that I would at least, like you said, kick the tires around, maybe bring him in for a workout. Listen, he wasn't cut because he isn't good. He had a great year last year, had a great year the year before. The Saints, for those who don't know, are in salary cap hell. Call it what it is. Their salary cap situation is not a good one. It's another reason why Drew Brees didn't come back. I know he wanted to retire. Trust me, Drew Brees probably would have played another year if they could have afforded him. He wasn't going to play for no money. It's a tough situation in New Orleans. They still have a really good team that is playoff caliber. It can compete in the division with the Buccaneers. It won the division last year over the Buccaneers. And the Saints, nobody would be stunned to see them make another deep run into the playoffs and potentially, make it far if they get anything out of the quarterback position. So they're in a situation where they can't waste money at the point where they're at with their old aging roster. So it made sense for them to try to restructure a backup running back. He won't cost that much for the Dolphins. Not sure that's the answer. I think the Dolphins like what they see out of Gaskin. They like what they see out of Malcolm Brown. I don't think they're going to sign Murray. I think if they did, I'd be happy with it. But for whatever reason, the Dolphins have decided that they're good. They did not prioritize running back in the offseason. And hey, if you go back and look at the 20 years of the Patriots way and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, it's not like there were Hall of Fame running backs back there at all times. You're talking about the LeGarrette Blunts of the world, talking about Leonard Fournette's. Like, we're not talking about Brady winning with these fantastic running backs. Every once in a while, he had one, but they won a lot of Super Bowls with next guy up at running back and Brian Flores. And that's kind of what I said draft night when me and you and my brother Ron were, listen, I'd like to get a Najee Harris. I'd love to get one of those, the Javonte Williams, who we're all going to be like, oh crap, we missed out on him. But none of those Patriot teams spent any semblance of money on bringing in a star running back. They brought in Randy Moss. They brought in big defensive guys. They didn't spend it running back. And you have to begin to wonder if that's what Flores and company are doing. But hey, Latavius Murray isn't on a high caliber. Maybe bring him in, see what's going on. But listen, Le'Veon Bell hasn't done anything in 3 years. Like, that was a situation where he held out with the Steelers, finally got released, and hasn't been anything since. These guys need to stay with what they have. I'm actually surprised Murray didn't just re-up, restructure his contract, and play second fiddle, because he's at a point in his career where he's in a good situation. There's probably more than meets the eye in New Orleans. It hasn't exactly been the most wonderful offseason for them. So we'll see what happens. But the Dolphins seem like they're comfortable going in, and they weren't going to bring Bell in. And we haven't seen some of these older running backs that, yes, they're Hall of Fame 1,700-yard backs, and then they disappear off the planet. Le'Veon Bell is a perfect example. Todd Gurley is a perfect example. Wear and tear, tires over and over and over again. Not the type of guy the Dolphins would bring in, but Murray might be.
Yeah, and it's that kind of thing where a lot of people in the NFL or fans of the NFL will watch and go, having a star running back is really important. We've looked at it. Most of the teams that are winning Super Bowls don't have that bell cow running back. It's not usually the case. It happens from time to time, but not usually. And, in today's National Football League, running backs are more or less a dime a dozen. Obviously that's not to say that special talent can't take you to the next level, but that special talent is few and far between. It's kind of like how you look at the NFL, you look at the records at the end of the day, and it's like how my brother and I always say on our show, the Same Old Dolphins Show, we talk about how there are a handful of teams in the NFL that are going to finish anywhere from 9-7 to 7-9. And those teams are all roughly the same. And they've just had a little bit different luck throughout the course of the season. And that's kind of, the deal with running backs. They're all kind of the same. And certain ones are running behind better offensive lines than others and have better quarterbacks and better systems than others.
I mean, look at the
Super Bowl, what it is.
Super Bowl champs from 2 years ago had multiple backup running backs there. You had Dolphins retread Damian Williams. You had LaShawn McCoy, who hadn't seen anything in years. And then they go ahead and use a first-round pick on CEH. And everybody thought that was a missing piece. And then they go ahead and don't win the Super Bowl the following year. The Bucs win with Leonard Fournette. The Patriots have won with LeGarrette Blount and James White. It's not the running back that wins you the Super Bowl. It's, nowadays you got to have a quarterback. You got to have weapons. You got to have a good run. You got to move the ball. Like, we all know the Dolphins have to run the ball to set up the pass, but you don't necessarily need Ezekiel Elliott behind that line.
Absolutely. And my feeling is that the Dolphins actually this year are probably going to be passing the ball to set up the run. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But first, I want to remind everybody that this show, Pick Six with David Bearman, sponsored by BetUS.com. BetUS.com will give you a 125% sign-up bonus if you use the promo code Dolphins Talk, all one word, when you sign up. So head over to BetUS.com and put in that promo code Dolphins Talk. Get a 125% sign up bonus. Well, let's turn our attention now to the Miami Dolphins and some individual player props. And I want to start on the defense primarily because I could only find one season-long player prop for the Dolphins early on here. And it's for the rookie, Jalen Phillips. And it's over under 6 sacks on the season for Jalen Phillips. Now, the initial Dolphins depth chart just came out and looks like Phillips is about third on the depth chart. So he's way back there. Most people understand that initial depth chart doesn't really mean a whole lot because at the end of the day, it's going to be the players that earn that playing time that are really going to be the ones that make a difference. And Phillips, I'm sure, listen, he didn't play a lot in the preseason. He was dealing with a nagging injury. Now he's going to be ready to go. So do you think, David, that he can get over or under 6 sacks this season?
Listen, I really didn't want to start out with an under because it's going to sound like I'm being pessimistic. And picking an under here is no indication and not trying to say that Phillips isn't going to have a good year or the Dolphin defense wouldn't do good. But unlike a lot of the offensive props, which are, opportunity based, you're going to get the handoff, you're going to pass the ball, you're going to catch the ball, whatever. A lot of the defensive props are situational based systems, depth charts, relying on others. Like, listen, Jalen Phillips gets off the line, gets to the quarterback fast multiple times. He's going to get more than 6 sacks. But a lot of times, for those who watch a lot of football, sacks are created by other players. Players that get the sacks, sometimes created by a double team somewhere else, or a stunt somewhere, or a broken down coverage, or maybe the offensive lineman missed something. So a lot of things go on to try to get to a sack number or an interception number or a fumble recovery number that are not necessarily in the control of the players. Now, the players do create their own stuff. Xavier Howard created his own stuff with those interceptions, some of which were handed to him, some of which he's the best corner guy in the league. Phillips is going to get a couple of sacks all by himself because he is that good. But asking him to get 6 is a lot for a rookie who has 0 NFL experience, who's been off injured a bunch of times in college, enters number 3 on the depth chart. It's just a big number for a guy who has not played one NFL down yet. Now, if you fast forward 2 or 3 years, I'd say, yes, 6 is absolutely something. Phillips, and you know what? It's not going to surprise me if he breaks 6 this year as well. I just think that's a tall order to ask for a rookie guy who has not seen an NFL offense yet to be able to stay healthy for one. Because if he's not healthy, he's not going to get 6 sacks. And also create the type of opportunities that he's going to need to create to get into that upper echelon of 7, 8, 9. I mean, you get more than 6 sacks, you're in line for a Pro Bowl bid. Call it what Absolutely. It is. 8, 9, 10 sacks, you're going to the Pro Bowl. He's a rookie. Give him a couple of years. He may not play right away. Got to keep him healthy. The Dolphin defense is a type of defense that uses a lot of different rotations of people. They'll put people, linemen and linebackers, linemen, safeties back and forth. They move a lot of people around. I'm not sure anybody in Brian Flores' defense is going to get 6 sacks. And I'm not saying because it's a bad defense. I'm saying the way the system is set up with versatility and moving guys around, you just don't know what the Dolphins are going to do with Phillips on defense. He could be back in coverage. He may have 3 or 4 interceptions that you don't see. If you knew what it was back in the 90s and early 2000s, the way the Dolphin defense with Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor, you knew that Zach Thomas was going to get the tackles and Jason Taylor was going to get the sacks. You knew what that defense was set up as. This is a different type of defense. So the smart play to me is the under, and you hope you're wrong and he gets the over.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Let me put you on the spot a little bit. Who's going to lead the Dolphins in sacks this season?
Probably Phillips.
All right, there it is. I'm going to move on before we muddy the waters too much. Let's move to the other side of the ball. Let's start by talking about the passing game, because I did talk about how I believe that the Dolphins are really going to be passing the ball to open up the running game. So I want to start with the passing game, and we'll start with the receiver who is not getting a lot of attention this offseason, because the Dolphins brought in Jalen Waddle, they brought in Will Fuller, they got Albert Wilson back, and the receiver who's I dare say kind of getting a little bit lost in the shuffle here is Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker, who has been one of this team's leading receiver last couple of years, and was a guy who was dealing with injury problems for a long time, but finally seems to, in 2019, finally seemed to get it under control, and he had a big year. And then last year, again, was among the leading receivers on the team, again, largely stayed healthy. So let's talk about Devontae Parker. We're going to put his over-under on receiving yards at 799.5. So you think that's something that DVP, now knowing that he's got Albert Wilson back in the fold and that he now also has Jalen Waddle and Will Fuller and Hunter Long and Mike Gesicki that are going to be splitting receptions here too. Does DVP go over under 799.5?
I think he goes over, but I think those weapons help him out. Last year, you look at the Dolphins offense, you had DVP and you had nobody else. Everybody else was either injured, they weren't getting separation. There just was nobody else out there, and he still had a good year. Devontae Parker last year battled through lots of injuries to show finally that he is a player that can battle through the injuries and stay on the field, which he did for the most part. And I think you're going to look at a different Devontae Parker. Now, he's not someone I would go take in the first 5 rounds of my fantasy draft, but he is someone that I think with Waddle, Gesicki, Gaskin, a couple of other players out there, Albert Wilson, people are going to, like you just said, forget about Devontae Parker. They're going to be covering Waddle, Gesicki, etc. I think that opens up a lot of one-on-one coverage, and I'm going to go over 799 yards because Waddle's a rookie. Gesicki's only a couple of years in. Albert Wilson's off of an injury. Preston Williams is off of an injury. So who does Tua depend on? He's going to depend on Devontae Parker. I think Devontae Parker is in line for about 65 catches for probably around 900 yards and a bunch of touchdowns.
Love that. Love that. So David's going over on Devontae Parker's receiving yards. Well, let's go over to take a look at that rookie now who you mentioned, Jalen Waddle. And what do you say? Over under 724.5.
I'm going to go under yards, but I'm going to go over touchdowns. I know that's the next one, but I'll do them both at the same time.
One.
I think he gets over 5.5 touchdowns, but I think he goes under his yardage, and I'll tell you why. I think Waddle's going to be a great red zone threat. I also think he's going to be someone that can break one from time to time. He's going to be someone that's going to be exciting to be able to get those receiving touchdowns, but I'm not sure he's going to get enough passes thrown his way with the weapons they have with Devontae Parker and others to be able to get over 725 yards. Now, I could be wrong. It could be Waddle who gets all the passes and Parker. I just don't see them both going over. And if I had to pick one to go over, I'm going to go with the veteran who has been there, done that, as opposed to the rookie who's going to have bumps in the road. He's not going to get as open as others might be because he is a rookie. But I do think he's going to be in a position to score a bunch of touchdowns, and I would take the over his touchdowns and the under on his yards.
I like that. I like that on Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, actually probably the Miami Dolphins pass catcher who is going highest in fantasy drafts. Not the highest drafted Miami Dolphins player, but certainly the pass catcher, I think, that is going the highest. And that's because this next guy is not going to be playing in week 1. That's Will Fuller. 875.5. Over or under?
Under, just because he's missing the first game, and there'll probably be another bump in the road somewhere where he misses a game for injury or not. And once you miss a couple of games, getting 900 yards, and listen, I love Will Fuller. I drafted Will Fuller in multiple fantasy leagues and didn't draft Devontae Parker. I think Will Fuller is actually going to be the reason the Miami Dolphins make a playoff run this year, because he can stretch the field and open it up for over-the-middle stuff to Gesicki and Devontae Parker and Waddle in the slot. I love Fuller. I just think 900 yards is going to be tough when you're already handicapping one game down, and these guys get banged up from time to time. And let's call it what it is. Like, the receivers will miss some time. So if the guy plays 12 or 13 games, it's going to be tough to get 900 yards.
Absolutely. And this is a guy that I don't think has ever played a full season, hasn't managed to stay healthy for a full season. And the only time it looked like he was finally figured it out, like he was going to stay healthy, he gets hit with a PED suspension and misses the final 6 weeks of the season. So
yeah, and he's only out one game, and I think there's value on taking him in fantasy, because obviously fantasy is 13 games plus the playoffs. He's going for low value because of the fact that there's a little S next to his name when he shows up in your tab. So when you're looking at the fantasy draft, don't ignore him just because he's missing the first game. He'll be valuable, and I think he'll be good. I just look like, if he had reversed the numbers and told me it was 724 for Fuller, I probably would have taken the over, which was what Waddle's number is. But starting out with one less game already eliminates the 17th game to begin with. You don't know what else happens. Maybe he doesn't play week 17 if, knock on wood, the Dolphins have a playoff spot lined up, misses a game here or there. He's a guy, like you said, he hasn't played a full season, so it's tough to put it out there. Now, if you're going to tell me that Will Fuller is going to play all 16 games that he can play, then I would take over 1,000 yards, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's go to the last pass catcher that we're going to talk about today. That's the tight end, Mike Gesicki, over under 685.5.
You'll see in the preview that I wrote, the preview that I spoke to about the tight ends, the Dolphins use 2 tight ends or more in 35% or more of their situational offense, which is top 10 in the league. If anybody watched any of the preseason action, Tua was thrown to the tight end left or right. I expect a big year out of Mike Gesicki, and I think that's a low number. I think I'd like that. I see him getting 800 to 900 yards playing a full season if he stays healthy. I think Mike Gesicki gets to a Pro Bowl this year, catching 70, 75 passes is going to be a great weapon for Tua, because they love using the tight end. Again, Patriots South, you see all the tight ends they used in New England. You see how much they used Gesicki last year. I really like Gesicki this year to go over that total.
Love that. I love to hear it, because Tua to Gesicki is something that it's a beautiful connection. All right, let's go to the backfield. We said that the passing game was going to open up the running game for the Miami Dolphins. How much is it going to happen? Is it going to happen for Myles Gaskin to go over under 800 yards?
Listen, the Dolphins are not built on a power running game. And yes, 1,000 yards is not a lot nowadays in the NFL, especially with a 17th game. It's just a tall task to ask any Dolphin running back to be the bell cow. They're not a bell cow type offense. If you tell me that Gaston's going to get 385 to 400 carries, then yeah, he's going to go over 800 yards. That's just not what this offense is built like. They brought in Malcolm Brown for a reason. They have guys that can go in and out in terms of pass catching and this and that. I think Gaskin's going to be a great weapon to throw to out of the backfield and a change of pace back, but I don't see him getting 350 carries. So therefore, I'll go under 800. Although there is that 17th game that leads me to think maybe 17 games, 800 yards, it's not that much. It's still a big number for a team that does not have a run-first bell cow type back. So nowadays, 800 yards by any running back on a team that has a committee is a tall order. They say he's going to be running back A, running back 1 on the depth chart. I may change my mind on this one, but for now, I'll go under, because I don't believe that Gaskin is your 400-yard running back, 400 attempt running back.
I tend to agree with that. I think they're going to really lean into that committee approach a bit more, just as they have for the past several years. All right, we've beaten around the bush, so let's go. Let's get down to it. Let's talk about the quarterback. What is Tua going to do this season? Let's look at it. Tua, 24 and a half touchdowns, 3,850 yards.
I'm going to be on the positive side of Tua. I've been behind Tua from the beginning, even before the Dolphins got him. All in on Tua, wanted Tua. I'm not really judging him by last year because of 9 games, no weapons, no training camp, etc. I like Tua to get over the passing yards. I think it's a nice year for him to move up a little bit in the quarterback stature, play all 17 games, get over 4,000 yards, which really isn't a lot nowadays in the NFL. I think he goes over 24 touchdown passes, and I'll go under interceptions because he's just not the type of guy to throw interceptions, as you saw in his limited time last year. I'm going to ballpark that Tua goes for 4,100 yards, 26 touchdowns, and he's going to be real close to the interceptions line. I'll throw him at 8 or 9 interceptions, 26 touchdowns, 8 or 9 interceptions. Pretty good year. Leads the Dolphins to 9 or 10 wins, and we're all happy about it.
Yeah, I think if Tua puts up a line like that by the end of the season, I don't know how anybody could come away from that going, you know what, I shouldn't say that because we're talking about the Dolphins. There are people that will walk away saying they weren't impressed.
Of course.
But we know that
we'll be happy. They did win 10 games last year, so you want to get at least 10, if not 11. AFC is not going to be easy. You look at their schedule, it's manageable. It's not the hardest schedule in the world. I think they can get 10 or 11 wins.
All right. Well, then that means that you are taking the over on the Dolphins win total for the season. You think they're going over 9.5?
I think they go over 9.5. They won 10 games last year with basically less weapons than they currently have. Another year for Tua under his belt, and just taking a look at the schedule, they have winnable games. Obviously, playing the Jets a bunch of times helps. But you just have a situation where I think everybody is a year older. Tua's going to have another year behind his belt. I think they have winnable games against the Raiders, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Houston, obviously. They get Baltimore at home, the Jets again, Carolina, the Giants. You have 8 or 9 games that I would actually circle as W's. You have probably 6 or 7 that I would circle as losses. And then you and I talked about this at the beginning. Everybody's 9-7, 7-9, 10-7. They're all around there. I think the Dolphins edge out a couple of wins and get to 10 or 11. I like their chances to go over in that one.
I like that too. I was sitting there at 10-7 for the Dolphins, so even I had them hitting the over here. But I actually, in recent days, ever since the Saints named Jameis Winston their starter, I think the Dolphins can actually go into New Orleans and win that Monday night game, which is a game that I think I had down as a loss. So now I have them winning and being 11-6. So there it is.
I agree with you there.
I love it. We love to see it. So just a quick moment to mention that this Pick Six with David Bearman is sponsored by Manscaped, our friends at Manscaped. If you go to manscaped.com and use the promo code Dolphins Talk, you can get 20% off and free shipping by the best in men's below the belt grooming products. So head to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk, 20% off and free shipping. And David, just like they say, your balls will thank you.
Hey, you make me laugh every time you say that, and there's really no retort I have. All I know is you're talking to the Bearman that has hair, so that's a good one.
Oh, see, now he's throwing shots at his brother. But listen, you're talking to the Katzker brother that doesn't. So what can I tell you? Anyway, let's hop around division by division. Let's take a look at the odds in each division in the NFL. We'll end with the AFC East. We're going to start on the NFC side. Let's start in the NFC East. Dallas, Washington, New York, Philadelphia. Who do you like? What is the best bet?
I like Washington. They're not getting the respect they deserve. Everybody's all in on Dallas because Dak's back and Zeke is good and it's the Cowboys, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to take what the public likes or do you want to win money? Because if you want to win money, the Washington football team has a top 5 defense. They have a battle-tested, really good veteran quarterback, as we all know, in Fitzpatrick. And they have a really good running back in Antonio Gibson. So I actually like the Redskins this year. I think they're going to be better than they were last year when they won the division. And I know the NFC East never repeats itself, but the Giants and the Eagles gone. To get rid of them. Neither one of them are good. Neither one of them is going to win more than 6 games. It's going to come down to Washington or Dallas. At the end of the day, I just don't have any faith in Mike McCarthy to get it done in Dallas. And I think Washington's in much better shape. Washington is not the favorite to win the division. So the best bet there is to take the Redskins at about plus 210, plus 220 to win that division.
Love it. I agree with you there. I like Washington. And just listen, I know a lot of people are salty about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I wouldn't mind seeing the guy get a shot at the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Wouldn't mind at all.
They're better than you think.
We're going to go to the NFC North now. Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit. What do you think here? Is this division a little bit more wide open than we might be led to believe?
This is my best bet of all the divisions and the win totals. You'll see it. Actually, you did see it. My article went out last Friday on ESPN Chalk. Shameless plug, ESPN.com.
This is what we do. This is what we do. That's why we do this, so that you can get your plugs in.
I'm not going to give you a Manscaped, but if you go to ESPN Chalk and read our NFL 32 preview on Chalk,
your wallet will thank you.
One of my entertainment purposes. Plays, the Green Bay Packers minus 160 to win the division. And listen, minus 160 implies about a 60.9, 61% chance to win the division. You're telling me there's a 39% chance somebody else is going to win the division. I don't like the Vikings at all. The Lions are in year 1,000 of a rebuild. And, I mean, come on. Chicago, they got lucky last year, did what they did, kind of crawled in there at 8-8. I don't think they're a better team this year. Eventually, they'll give the ball to Justin Fields, and Fields will take over, and they'll do okay. But Chicago starts out with the Rams, Cleveland, at Vegas, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, San Francisco as their first 7 games of the season. Chicago could easily be basically 2-5 after 7 games, and it doesn't matter if Justin Fields comes in or not. So they're probably the second best team. I don't like the Vikings, even though I think they'll be better than last year's crap that they had out there. Their defense will be better. And like I said, the Lions they're the Lions. Like, they're not going to win the division. So Green Bay, lay the 160, lay the 60 cents juice. You're talking about 60, 61, 62%. No one else is winning that division. Green Bay Packers to win it at minus 155, 160, depending on where you play it.
Yeah, and the numbers that you're seeing on your screen, folks, are coming from BetUS as of Tuesday afternoon. So if there's a discrepancy there, it's David's getting his numbers from one place. We're getting them from BetUS. That's where the official sponsor of Pick 6 with David Bearman.
I got them at minus 155. Even 175, you're looking at, 66, 67%. It's a lock. Go take it. Green Bay, by the way, all Green Bay has done with all the noise and nonsense around Aaron Rodgers, will he, won't he, yada, yada, yada. All they've done is go 26-6 under LaFleur. So 13-3, 13-3, go to 2 NFC championship games. I don't know what people are crying about. You're only laying 175, and I wouldn't bet the other 3 teams with your money.
Very well, then. Let's go to the NFC South, which I think is another division that I don't know that there's a lot to talk about here. It's Tampa Bay, it's New Orleans, it's Carolina, it's Atlanta. I don't know that anybody's catching Tampa Bay here, unless Tampa Bay just completely regresses with the running it back approach.
No, and I agree with you. And if you go back a minute ago when I said the biggest lock, I meant that on value. You can get Green Bay at minus 160, minus 175. Is Tampa a bigger lock to win the division? Absolutely. But you got to lay $3. If you want to go lay $3, right, it's not the best investment in the world, but it's going to be a good return on your money because you're going to win because Tampa's going to win. So if you want to lay 300 to win 100, there are not many CDs out there that are going to pay that kind of percentage. So go ahead and do it. It's just money that you're going to have to lay out all season where 160, 170 is cheaper for Green Bay. But yeah, Tampa's the best team in the division. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. You've read about it, heard about it, listened to it. They got everybody back, blah, 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 blah. Brady going for 8, blah, 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 blah. I don't think they win the Super Bowl, but I do think they win the division. But keep in mind, they didn't win the division last year. It didn't seem to matter. But New Orleans has regressed. Atlanta and Carolina, I actually like Carolina this year, or one of the plays I sort of gave out with their win total over and maybe a outside chance of making the playoffs just because their schedule is Carolina, New Orleans, Houston, Dallas, Philly, Minnesota, New York, Atlanta. Their first 8 games, every one of them is winnable, shy of maybe at Dallas. But if at Dallas is the hardest game you're playing the first 8 games, Carolina could get off to a good enough start to challenge for a playoff spot. But the back end of the schedule is brutal, so Tampa Bay will take that division.
Let's head over to the NFC West, which is the division that I think is probably the closest, the tightest division in the entire NFL. San Francisco, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Cardinals. This division is just going to be a bloodbath all season. I think these teams beating each other up. Dave, what's the best way to go here?
So you don't really want me to give 8 divisions and 8 favorites. That doesn't do anybody any good. You wouldn't really want to listen to the pick 6 if I gave all favorites out all day. So with that in mind, I'm going to go the opposite way with this division for exactly the reasons you say. This division is going to be a bloodbath. It's the closest of all the divisions. And if you look at every single team, I think every single team has a flaw. Everybody loves San Francisco because 2 years ago they went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Well, just because Jimmy G got hurt last year, they had a lot of other issues. I don't necessarily think San Francisco was as good as they were 2 years ago, and I don't think they were as bad as they were last year. They're somewhere in between, but for plus 175, you're not getting my money. The Rams just lost their running back in Cam Akers. Still not sold on Sean McVay as the coach. They haven't done what they should be doing by now. They've regressed since losing in the Super Bowl, as most teams do. They're not getting my money. Seattle, Russell Wilson, he's a godsend. He's great. He needs some help. He can't just fire it all over the field for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns every game. He's going to have Chris Carson and a defense to help him out. Defense isn't good enough. 250, you're not getting my money. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, year number 2, an offensive type coach in Kingsbury. You got a couple of running backs now. You bring in J.J. Watt on defense. No team improved better in that division than the Arizona Cardinals, who, by the way, won 8 games last year and were sitting on a playoff spot until they lost the last 2 games of the season. You're getting 5-1 on your bet US. I've already booked it at plus 650 on my book. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals to win the division in a huge upset at plus 600, 650, because I think the value in a division that is up for grabs, let's go take the little guy who arguably is just as talented as any other team in the division. You have the best one of the best 5 receivers in the game, the best defensive player in the game, and one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. Give me Arizona.
I love it. And for those of you who still haven't done your fantasy draft, if you've got a deep enough league, Rondale Moore, great late round value pick with a really high ceiling. So there's my 2 cents worth of free advice for you. Let's go to the AFC. We'll wrap it up. Get back here to the AFC East. We'll start out west. Kansas City, the odds-on favorite to win this. Then you got the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders. Is there a value here going anywhere here, or is this a division where you just kind of don't want to spend any money?
The same thing as the NFC South with Tampa Bay, minus 3.25, minus 300 for Tampa. If you want to lay 325 to 100, by all means. Same thing with Tampa Bay. They're going to win the division, but you're an injury 2 away from wasting a heck of a lot of money. Like Pat Mahomes gets injured week 2, you just threw 325 down the toilet. I don't like any of the other teams in the division. If the Chargers have a new head coach, they have a quarterback who isn't going to be as good as he was last year, despite everybody's projections that he will be. He had a great first year. If I was going to pick a dark horse in the division, it would be the Denver Broncos, but I'm not in love with the Denver Broncos, so I'm not going to pick it. And the Raiders, 14-1 is a hefty price, but their defense is about as good as what we all did at Rose Price Park back in the 90s. So Kansas City will win that division, but laying 325 and risking an injury is just not smart money.
Did not expect to get a Rose Price Park reference on the show tonight. My evening is made. This is fantastic. Let's go to the AFC North, which I think is probably the most interesting division in the AFC top to bottom. Although, listen, Cincinnati's on the bottom. I'm not too high on them, but I think there's some interesting conversation to be had, particularly between Baltimore and Cleveland there. And I think Pittsburgh could be a decent value, although I'm not terribly high on them.
Yeah, this is going to be another tight division like the NFC West. And if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said Baltimore's the best team in the division. Baltimore's going to be the champion. Without Gus Edwards, now another injury at running back. Without J.K. Dobbins, you have Gus Edwards at running back. I still think the Ravens are good enough to get it done, but we shouldn't be sleeping on the Cleveland Browns. This isn't your grandfather's, your father's, your brother's, or your dog's Cleveland Browns. This is actually a really good team with a really good coach. I think they finally figured it out. They got the right pieces in place. They did pretty well last year and took Kansas City to the mat at the end there. I do like the Browns to win that division, but neck and neck with the Ravens. I think the Steelers are better than people think, and the Bengals will be better. That entire division will be better than it was last year, but I think the Browns take it down and win that division.
AFC South, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Houston.
2-man race, Titans, Colts. Again, you'd asked me a month ago, I would all in on the Colts. Carson Wentz gets injured. Other people get injured. You got to think Tennessee with Tannehill, Henry, Julio, AJ. They're as talented as anybody. Will they get it done? I think $1.25 is actually a pretty good price there. I'm surprised that's not higher. I would lean towards the favorite. Let's save a little pizza money for the Colts if Wentz is healthy. I don't know how much I trust Wentz or Jacob Eason, and forget about the Jags and Texans. Let them play week 1. The losers should be relegated.
Yeah, that's it. Kick them out, and I think we get the Calgary Stampeders or whoever it is from the CFL gets to join in their place. All right, that takes us to the AFC East. Here we go. Buffalo, New England, Miami, and the stinking New York Jets.
Smart money is the defending AFC East champion Buffalo Bills. They're back. They're just as good as they were last year. They should win the division. They should contend for that number 1 seed with Kansas City. That's what should happen. I wouldn't sleep on the Patriots or Dolphins. The Patriots are getting a lot of players back on defense. Mac Jones is the obvious choice over Cam Newton. They don't have many weapons on offense. They lost a lot of people, but I wouldn't sleep on them. And we've talked about the Miami Dolphins. They're not that far behind Buffalo. I see a lot of people picking the Dolphins to finish ahead of New England. I think it's neck and neck. If I had to project it, I'd say the Bills win 11-12. The Dolphins win 10 or 11. Patriots win 9 or 10, and we won't even talk about the Jets. They're worthless anyway. I don't think this will be a blowout division by any stretch of imagination. I think this will come down to the final couple of weeks of the season. But the Dolphins got to take advantage of the first 2 weeks when you get New England, Buffalo. You 0-2, you're out of the division race before it starts. I think if they split those games, we just circle back late in the year and see what happens. I think it'll be a little closer, but I would pick Buffalo with my money.
Yeah, and I would say what I would say to anybody who's looking to bet this division and is really looking for a reason to bet the Dolphins, if you believe in Tua, if you truly believe that Tua is the guy that all of us want to believe that he is, if you've got that belief, throw down your money on the Dolphins, because if this guy turns up and is the real deal and is the truth and delivers, the ceiling for the Dolphins is very high. If Tua is that guy.
If Tua is that guy, they have the weapons, they have the defense. They absolutely can win 12, 13 games. Plus 350, not as good values I think you're getting with an Arizona team in a much more closer toss-up division. But still, I would play the Dolphins before I played the Patriots, because I think the Dolphins' weapons, and you look at what Mac Jones has, he's going to have the same issues that Tua had last year. I see an actual repeat Patriots to what the Dolphins did last year. Patriots will have a very good defense, rookie quarterback, no weapons to throw to. Last year, Dolphins, very good defense, rookie quarterback, no one to throw to. New England might scratch out 9 or 10 wins, just like the Dolphins did last year because of the defense. That's what I see New England doing. You just hope that the Dolphins are a step above that at 11 wins to be able to make the playoffs ahead of the Patriots. But New England should be pretty much what the Dolphins were last year.
And there it is. That is the very first episode, the premiere of Pick 6 with David Bearman here on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. David, any parting words before we say goodbye?
I would say do your homework, enjoy the football, thank your wife, girlfriend, whatever, for letting you have all these time to do fantasy drafts and betting. Bet smart, and somebody help me find my Tua jersey. No disrespect to Dan Marino, but I have no idea what I did with my Tua jersey. I'll be wearing it next week.
Where is David's Tua jersey? We've got to find it. Will we find it? I don't know. Find out on the next episode of Pick 6 with David Bearman, coming your way this weekend on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you next time. Go Dolphins!